When I was 17, I went to speak to a sculptor, a chap called Anthony Bennett, who's a very gifted sculptor, and said, "Here's a job." And he said, "I can't give you a job, I can't afford to pay you, but I can offer you just a spot in my studio, and you can come and I can teach you, some of the techniques, the basics." But I had the opportunity and the materials, and so it was I would just work on head after head and then figure after figure, and so it was all life size, and it was, practice, 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 practice. And so we used to work for TV and film, museum and heritage. I always sort of say it was a little bit like a lower budget Madame Tussauds. I found doing the museum and heritage and film work great. It was a really good basis for learning anatomy and physiology and how a figure works, but it stopped teaching me about sculpture and expression, and there was, I'd kind of hit a brick wall with it. And so I went off and I started doing my own work in between. So I used to spend 6 months earning my money and 6 months doing my own work. This is a dying art form. And what happens with the art form is that the legacy that's handed down is lost as soon as somebody dies. The person that is the master of that particular art form. As soon as they die, all of their skills, all their knowledge dies with them. So, and it can be an inherited thing that they've inherited from somebody that's taught them. And what happens is that lineage is instantly stopped. It's very rare that you get very high quality figurative sculpture these days because people don't have the training and the experience. I remember walking through a woodland and seeing some really old bits of wood that had got loads of fungus growing on them. The white fungus seemed to grow in these sort of lines that went across the cracks in the wood, and I like that. I like that form, that natural form. These pieces kind of echo that form, so you can see the line which kind of draws your eye into this central bulk, but actually it's designed originally on sort of fungus and toadstools in woodlands. If you've got an art form that is so done like figurative sculpture, it requires so much more to be authentic and unique. So you have to really hone in on your ability and your voice. Probably about 15 plus years ago, I started developing 2 different sorts of work that almost developed simultaneously. One was called, which I call the bozzetto work, which in Italian means 3D sketch. It's just another word for maquette. This is sort of quick, sketchy. These are more intuitive. I don't make a bozzetto piece that is in any way considered. I try and make the armature as simple as possible, so I don't really know what I'm going to make when I go into it, and it's very much material led. They're designed with a kind of very organic base to look as though, if you imagine them life size, to look as though they're growing out of the ground. Usually the white work discusses current issues. It could be political or observational issues within society, or it could be spiritual. I was taught how to please, a commissioner, and I learnt well how to understand what they're looking for, what they want. And a few years back, I ended up having like a burnout, and it stopped. I could not produce anything for anyone. Started saying I don't do commissions. I didn't do commissions for years, and I just did my own work. which was scary. I got asked to sculpt Stephen Hawking for Cambridge University, and I said to the guy who was commissioning it and Stephen Hawking, I'll only do this project if I can include your full body, because they wanted a head, just a portrait head, and I said I'm not doing that. And Stephen agreed. He said, you know, people know me for being in the wheelchair. So that was the first sort of stamp time when I just said I have to do things that feel right, because I can't anymore. I can't do the other stuff anymore. Now what's happening is people are starting to come to me, and they can see the very specific styles that I have, and they're saying, you know, we would really like you to sculpt, be influenced by this, but very much your style. And that's kind of where I wanted to be. It was you know, I didn't just want to produce yet another portrait head, yet another, you know, and so it's a real privilege now to be taking on commissions where, you know, people give me free rein, which is fantastic.